this pops up on Facebook. We need a couple people to come in here and comment. Let us know you can hear us and see us okay. And also let us know, well, we'll be able to see if you're from Facebook or from
We made
YouTube.
it. I can see
Hey,
it.
we're on. Okay, we're good. We're good. Now we just need people to tune in. Guys, make sure to share it. Let's get this out there. So we got some big news today, Mike, from Matchroom Pool.
Yeah,
And
I think big news is an understatement, my man.
yeah. So it looks like we got about a couple dozen people in here now. Guys, can you hear us okay? Hey, we're on YouTube and Facebook. Awesome. Well, listen, I thought the best way to kick this off maybe is to play a short video. What do you say, Mike?
Roll it. Let's roll.
Okay.
I'm Barry Hearn, president of Matchroom Sport. As you know, I'm a big pool fan, and I can't wait to tell you about what we've got in 2022 and going forward. We are going to make pool a major global sport, and together we're going to show what can be achieved and what dreams can be created for the players from all around the world who already play this wonderful game. 2022 is a massively important year for 9-ball pool. Matchroom, under the leadership of Emily Frazer, are going to promote more and more events, and we're going to create bigger and bigger prize funds. For the first time, you have a major sporting company looking after the players and making sure the opportunities are second to none.
Matchroom are bringing the 9-ball world rankings to the sport of pool. What an exciting announcement that we're bringing you in 2022. Finally, players have a clear and transparent entry system to the biggest staged events in the world.
Awesome. I'm pretty excited. So that was Emily on the video. But guys, we have a treat for you today. We have Emily Frazer live in person. Hey, Emily, how's it going?
Hey, I've been sweating all day. It's been very nerve-wracking in the office, but also so exciting. I mean, there's been like a buzz in the office today. We had the January the 10th in our calendars for a while now for this announcement. It's something we're working on for a long time. It started as something we knew had to happen, and we were quite sure how. We professionalized the sport and what we needed to do, and finding the right way to do it. So today, I was just saying, obviously, we redecorated our office here in the multi-sport department. I've got an office just through the door there. And today I've come through, we have a big hot desk because I like it when everyone can communicate together. And we've all been sat here together just talking about the announcement. We were due to do it earlier, but we've just been bouncing questions. And even 20 minutes before we were due to announce, there was a few questions that came up and we were like, oh gosh, we haven't thought about this. And, we've noted it down that we don't need to get that information out right now. We can, push that to the next couple of days and think about it. But there's so much that we don't know, that's an unknown. And then we were all getting very nervous because obviously, for me, this is something that's, I think it's just a major, just turning point for pool. And we've all been nervous about how we get it out there because obviously within our room here, every individual knows what we're trying to communicate. We know how the ranking system works, but we've been working on this and, we've come up with it. So we went over to the darts department and we said, right, this is our press release. You read it and you come to us and you come in here and you tell us what our rankings is. And they read through the press release, come in and said, right, so you're doing an initial 32 list and this is formed by who? And it's quite interesting because, they have a fully ranked system in darts and they have, so many professional events. They've got a global tour. So that's where, Matchroom is so brilliant in itself that we have the ability to go to the different departments and get advice. So, and then when we announced it, it just went quiet. I mean, I was just sat here going like this and just sort of looking around, and I was like, is this
I was
okay?
like this, doing this number here, reading and rereading.
Emily's sitting there saying, as soon as Molina Mike shares it, we got to be ready. Something's going to happen, right?
And it's just like, it just went silent. And then all of a sudden, the vibe in the office just got really like excitable, happy, because we've all just realized what we've just announced and that we've finally got it over the line. Not saying that it's going to be perfect. And, you know, this year is going to be so challenging to try and achieve what we're obviously setting out to do. But we've got that bit over the line now, and we've got some sort of structure. Now it's about fine tuning it, seeing what challenges come down the road. But I mean, that's what we're good at. We're good at things that just hit us last minute and reacting to it. So, I mean, questions are welcome.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't really,
go ahead, Mike.
Joey. No, I was gonna say, I don't really know where to begin because there was so much information to go and take in. You mentioned it briefly, but how long has this been in the works for you guys? How long have you guys been prepping for this announcement? Because all I hear online is that pool is such a joke. Matchroom's out just to make a television show. The sport is just is ridiculous now. It's just a circus. So how serious is it? How important is it? Because to me, it seems like this is the equivalent of what, you know, the NFL is to football, or, you know, the Major League Baseball is to baseball. It seems like it's a new day for pool.
Of course. And yeah, it is a television show, and that is what the events are. The Moscone Cup is a different beast to any of the other events. And okay, it might be more of an entertainment factor, and you might find that the crowd is different in Moscone Cup to what it would be at a World Pool Masters. That's fine. We've got the different scale of events. When we introduce you know, a potential Reyes Cup, for instance, I'd like to think that they have this, that has the same amount of crowd and the same type of crowd as the Moscone Cup. But yes, this is a television show, and yes, we are a business, but we know that this sport needs some development in order to commercialize it and to move it forward. And what we're lacking, and you know, the videos, the press release that you'll see, we're lacking organization and we're lacking structure. And we knew that this was the way to push it forward. And the main part of this, and the integral part of this announcement, is that it's coming with other organizers. There are
That's
other
massive.
promoters that are on board with us. I mean, it's absolutely commendable to the likes of Diamond Billiards, Chad Charlo, and Pat Fleming with the International Open, and now recently the Euro Tour events, to look at this, to listen to, well, me and Matchroom, and to say, okay, we trust you. We're a little bit unsure. You know, we don't know where this is going to take us. We understand there needs to be regulations in place. We understand what you're trying to do, and we believe in you, and we're with you, and we support you. And they're the MVPs of this announcement, because without them, we wouldn't have a schedule of events like we do. I mean, how many is it now? I'm trying to, I think we've got our 8 events, the Matchroom promoted events. We've just announced a brand new event, which is the European Open. It's going to be in November. Then we've got the Derby City, the 9-ball event only, obviously not the other disciplines. We've got the International Opens, and we've got 5 Euro Tour events. So that's our starting schedule. But that doesn't mean that I'm not having conversations with other organisers at the moment. You know, there's people like the National Billiards League who are really interested about coming on board. Texas Open, for instance. We want to ensure that we're looking at this globally. So this is just a starting pack, and it's okay to start off with this kind of size. And I think it's great, because now promoters, organisers can come to us and say, I want to be part of these rankings. Because what's brilliant is now there is a clear schedule for all of the players, and they can say, right, in order for me to get onto the Moscone Cup, or for me to have my future in the years to come, I need to go and compete at these events. This is what, again, it's small to start off with, but think where we can be in 2 years' time. So it's fantastic for the sport of pool, but better for 9-ball, because what we're noticing is organisers who may look at a 10-ball event, for instance, or another discipline,
Right.
they're now looking and saying, well, actually, we didn't do 9-ball events before because we weren't getting much of a field coming through. But now we know it can be a ranking status, and we know the players will travel to it because they can earn their ranking points off of prize money. All of a sudden, their field that they're unsure if they're ever going to make is now looking a lot more solid. And also, they get the promotion via our platforms as well. So we will push, the dates, the venues, to push to fill the fields. That's what we want to do. We want the International Open to be full of players. That's what we want. We want everyone to be watching, because we want everyone to see how the ranking points are earned, who's getting those points, and now we're all coming together and we're all singing from the same hymn sheet, but we haven't been doing that previously. Everyone's been going off in their own direction, and that probably includes us a couple of years ago, because we tried to do a rankings a little while back because we knew that the Moscone Cup was just unstructured and it was unfair, and unfair being actually the underlining fact there. So we're pushing organisation and we're pushing transparency. Now it's clear how you get into the events, and it's clear as day. It's on the website. All of the information is there. Everything that we actually know confirmation of is on the website currently, and we will just update that as it comes. And so players finally have this tour starting to develop, and they can see that these events are going to start building up the calendar, and they can see where, okay, I'm going to travel to here. They can now look at their diaries and say, right, I'm going to book my flights here. I'm going to do this.
Right.
Everyone is coming together, and that is what we've needed. We're pushing 9-ball as the main and the primary discipline of the sport, because it's too confusing to push too many disciplines. And it's not saying, it's no disrespect to the other disciplines, that they're great, but we have to produce an easy understanding of the rules. The more, at the moment, the snooker and the darts, for instance, that's on TV all the time. Whereas there's only been a few 9-ball events on TV because of the Matchroom events. The more that we get on TV, the more that we in turn could help with production on these third-party events in years to come. It's just going to increase the viewership. But to casual sports fans, let's commercialize the sport to a wider audience. And we already know that when we go to these large-scale events and there's loads of amateur players, just enjoying themselves, and you go to pool halls in America and it's buzzing and it's fantastic, but the professional side is lacking. And so that's what we need to do. We need to create this tour for the professional players. So yes, in a few years' time, is there a Q score to get onto the tour? I don't know where this is going to take us. It's only going to take us, upwards. When we look at this, there's no drawback to it. There is no negative vibe that you can look on this launch. It's only shouts positivity for the sport. And that's all that it is.
Yeah, I love the concept, the fact that you're standardizing things. I think you're right. There are a lot of disciplines out there, and you're stepping up and saying, hey, here's what we're putting our support behind. It's a 9-ball pool. In fact, even on the website, it says 9-ball with a little period, which is kind of cool. And yeah, and it's like, this is the direction we're going. Would you like to be a part of it? And the fact that you make a great point with the other events that are out there, people are going to start considering, hey, should we do 9-ball now? Because we could talk to Matchroom. We could possibly make it into a points event. It's really awesome. We have a couple comments in here, Emily, and I wanted to bring one to your attention and kind of just get your thoughts on it. Somebody was asking about Asia. Are there any talks in the future about exploring maybe doing some events in Asia?
Definitely.
I hear there's some pool players over there. I don't know.
It's not very popular there. We have a set of aims, obviously, over the next 5 years. I won't share them all with you because no, we're going to make those aims because that's how we roll. But the way that we foresee 9-ball now with our rebrand, not Matchroom Pool, the way we see 9-ball moving forward is we are heading into the direction of the open events because we love selling out those fields of 256 players. And also it gives more of an opportunity to open the field out and to increase the professional side of the game, to see the up and coming players coming through. Now, at the moment, we've got the US Open, the UK Open, and the European Open. Moving forward, there's so much more we can do where we can go to a Taiwanese Open, we could go to a Scandinavian, we could go over for an Asian Open. So that's all in the planning and that's all in the works. But in our current climate right now, it's just, you know, it's not sensible to sort of be drawing our attention and our focus to that because it's just, you know, we obviously have worked very closely with World Snooker and we know what's kind of happening in China and events over there at the moment. So we're just going to take it as it comes. But the way that we see this, and it's key in our launch, is it's the 9-ball world rankings. World. It should be everywhere. Yes, there's a huge market in America, and we hope to do more events over in America, but we want to expand this globally.
So how will these ranking events go and affect your invitational events that you got on the calendar right now? The World Cup of Pool, the World Pool Masters, now the newly branded Premier League Pool. How are these rankings going to go and affect how those invitations are sent out to players?
So the beautiful thing that we've created on our website, and this is to go along with the transparency of our launch, we wanted to get all of the information out there as much as we could to all the players. So let's go for Premier League Pool and World Pool Masters, for instance. You'd be looking at both those events that are invitational events.
Right.
You cannot earn ranking points from those events. So Premier League Pool is now a 16 invitational event, players, and we would be looking at 12 players coming off of the rankings and 4 wildcards. So straight away, we're looking
Those
at
are good percentages.
Yep. We're trying to move forward and trying to, one day we're going to shoot ourselves in the foot, but it's the right move. It's what I think what we're noticing is that, and I think everyone needs to notice this, is that we've taken a major risk by putting this launch on.
That's an understatement. You're on the tail end of what I hope to be a pandemic, and you're still going and adding event after event after
256 person events.
Yeah.
Omicron.
So to say it's a risk is an understatement.
That is very true. We have been basing our World Pool Masters events, our World Cup of Pool events on an invitation field. And because, like I said, we're a business, it's a TV show, and that's what they're based on. But we are now pushing our commitment into pool, and we're putting our full 110% behind 9-ball. And that shows by introducing the rankings into all of our events. So the World Pool Masters, the top 20 qualify through the rankings, 4 wildcards. So we're respecting the rankings. The top 8 seeds go through to round 1. How clear and transparent is that? We're setting up the World Cup of Pool, where federations will be involved a lot more through the WPA, with obviously our partnership with them, to, again, start afresh as us as the promoter. We're the leading promoter of the sport. We want to work with the federations and the World Pool Association with our events. And so we go off of the rankings and we respect the rankings within our invitational events. The Moscone Cup, 3 off of the rankings and 2 wildcards, top 3 Americans and the top 3 Europeans. So we respect the rankings.
Let me ask you a question though on that note. So if, let's say you have an American who's going and traveling to some of these Euro Tour events that are listed on there, and some Americans choose to go and stay home. So I'm assuming then the ones that are going and traveling, you know, and putting in the time and the money and the effort to go and compete are essentially going to go and have a higher ranking than maybe someone who's staying, you know, back home.
Yeah, of course. And it's going to be clear on our schedule as to how that is, because I understand that, you know, some people may say it's more favorable to Europeans because of the Euro Tour, but we can't dismiss the Euro Tour events because, you know, they're an established tour that's been working in Europe, and we must build this schedule. But what we want to happen is we want that to happen in the US. I'd love for more events from the US to join our rankings, but you know, it's a bit easier with Europe because Euro Tour has been established.
More structured. Yeah.
Exactly. So I hope that's why I was so pleased that the Derby City and both the International Open came on board, because it could say the same. It's a lot easier for an American player to go to the International Open than it is someone from the United Kingdom or from Europe. But the main point of this is that ranking points is awarded off of prize money won. So the players will see the total prize money, they'll see the prize money events, and they'll see what is awarded, and they will be able to pick and choose what they go to. So yes, some Americans may decide to stay at home, and some may decide to travel, but it's going to be clear based on prize money won.
I got a question though, Emily, because on the website it says under the International Open that it's non-ranking. So I'm a little confused there, because if the Americans are going and competing in there, you mean that's not going to be ranked towards how they're seated in the Moscone Cup or how they're ranked in the Moscone Cup?
Well, if anyone from the Matchroom team are watching, they're probably sitting there trying to change it now.
Way to go, Mike.
Look, the team has worked extremely hard today, and we can't get everything right, but it will be. You can earn your ranking points from that. So what we're trying to set out with the regulations to become a ranking event, only events, third-party promoters will be able to come on board if they are an official ranking event. We won't accept any invitational events because it doesn't contribute to the rankings. So every third-party organizer that comes on board will be a ranking event, and ranking points can be earned from it. So the set of regulations that we've tried to set out, and I won't lie to you, I tried to be really flexible with this at the start, and we look at it and we're like, right, okay, let's look at between 4 and 4.5 inch 4 and 4.5 inch pockets. Okay, let's do that. 1 or 9 on the spot. What are we looking at? Obviously, it must be 9 ball, and it must be open to all ambitious pool players, including women, obviously. And we set out these regulations, but what we found was that as we were speaking to different organizers, they had their own reasoning as to why they couldn't adhere to a certain regulation. So, this is a discussion at the end of the day, and we have a lot of trust in, say, someone like Pat Fleming, who's been doing these events for a long time, and he knows the sport of pool. And we look at it and say, right, okay, let's be flexible for 2022. Let's get the events on board, because if an event like the International Open comes on board with us and benefits from being part of our rankings, that's great for everyone. That's great
Absolutely.
for all three of us all sitting here, because it elevates the sport. So then we look at 2023 and we say, right, guys, we're tying it up a bit now. We must evaluate this year. We must look at this 1 and 9 on the spot, because 50% of people say it's 1, 50% of people say it's 9. We must eliminate the 3-point rule. But speaking with people, I understand sometimes you cannot eliminate the 3-point rule when certain factors are still in place. So we must ensure that from 2023, those other factors are in place so the 3-point rule can be eliminated and still be fair to the players. So we're learning a lot of stuff. And obviously the aim is to standardize the rules so everyone can understand it. You know, it's, if you think and you look back as a casual sports fan, and I'm sitting there and I watch the Mosconi Cup and player breaks off, one goes down and say the 3-point rule isn't in effect. And it, like one
They're
of our
confused.
matches.
They don't know what the hell's going on. Why isn't he still shooting?
Exactly. And then they tune into another event that has the 3-point rule, and they go, oh, hang on a second, this is part of the Matchroom ranking. So how comes that's an illegal break? And they're just, and then all of a sudden you're like, huh? So we must make it all a bit easier to understand to a casual sports fan, but also less confusing for the players. They know what they're turning up to do. And one thing that we've certainly noticed, especially with like the Whirlpool Masters in 2021, the standard of pool and standard of 9-ball has significantly grown. The players are getting stronger, they're getting better. And why? There's more competitive events on the calendar. There's more for them to compete at. There's harder events for them to compete at. So let's get to that level and try and just all come together. But we understand it can't all be done overnight. We must talk with people. We must understand why things can't be put in place. So that's something that's just obviously a development and a work in progress for us.
Yeah, Emily, some of the comments in here, I wouldn't call them negative, but they're just, they're talking about the US players pretty much having now to travel abroad. And like I said, I wouldn't call that negative, because I think
set events for the pool players to travel to.
Well, no, but my point is I think that's a great thing, right? Because like you said, that raises the standards, and yeah, they're going to have to get some more sponsorship. They're going to have to get help with their travel arrangements. But now imagine like a young guy like a Chris Reinhold now playing a full Euro Tour schedule. You don't think he's going to improve by 15, 20% in a year? I mean, that's going to happen.
Well, it's not just that, but
look at all of the comments for the Mosconi Cup. Everyone says you can make 4 competitive teams out of European players. The Euro Tour has helped these players because it's created some organization. I do understand that, okay, it's a bit more travel for the USA players, but let's start off with that and let's get the let's put pressure on the US promoters to get some events.
There it is. See, there's the nail on the head. Yeah,
exactly.
Because what people are missing is that she's saying, hey, we're open to be flexible if more events are added, but you have to be within these parameters. So no, your bar table event in the middle of nowhere is not going to be included. You know, it has to be 9-ball, 9-foot table, between 4 and 4.5 inch pockets, a decent amount of money added. Get in contact with you. I'm sure there's an email on there, and see about getting their event put on there. But don't go and complain about having to go and travel. It's not their fault that there's more of a structure in place in Europe compared to the US.
I understand that there's travel expenses, and yes, travel expenses for a USA player traveling to Germany is going to be a lot higher than a European player traveling to Germany. But again, we need to put pressure on the promoters and the organizers in the US and globally to get in contact with us and to register these events. The National Billiards League, they're
work together.
In this. And so, you know, you could be looking at 2 National Billiards League. You could be looking at 2 other promoted events in the US. All of a sudden, you've got 4 more events in the US against the Europe's 5. And now all of a sudden we're weighing it up. And then when it gets to there's more USA events than outweighs Europe, then everyone else is going to complain.
It would be.
Plus,
It would be.
hold on a second, Joey, because I want to say something. There's plenty of great events here in the U.S. that American players aren't even making it to. I mean, plenty that I go and see, and I'm looking all over Facebook, and all I'm seeing is traveling to the event out in Tucson on the way to Derby after that. Guys are coming from all over the world to come to the U.S. to come compete. Meanwhile, we're having a hard time fill those great events here in the States with American players.
Well, that was another point that I had there, Mike, with my last comment is I saw Albin's post this morning that he's going to Derby for the first time. How cool was that? So now Derby now has even more of a reputation that the European players are going to want to come and be a part of that, which is awesome.
Exactly. I spoke to Kelly Fisher today, and I said to her, I said, "Are you going to the Derby?" And she said, "Sorry, my accent says Derby, so
Derby.
you just
wait a minute. Are we going to see that on the flyers now? It's going to say Derby, D-A-R-B.
I'm sorry. The amount of times I just can't help it. But I said, "You going to Derby?" She goes, "Well, no, Emily, I wouldn't have thought about it." I said, "Well, it's part of the rankings now." And she goes, "Oh, well, I wish I'd known because I would have 100% gone." That's one more person to fill the field. Imagine how many people are going to do that. And she lives in the UK.
Yeah.
So there are 2 sides to this. Definitely. We want this to be global. I understand the negativity behind it, but what we're trying, any question of saying, "Oh, how dare we increase the schedule of events and more tournaments to participate in?" But we must make the commitment to these events and to this schedule, just like the players are going to make the commitment to play in these events. So I might lose out on X amount of expenses to come over to UK and play in these events, but I'm going to make the Moscone Cup. All my expenses are paid for. I got $15,000 guaranteed. And guess what? I'm going to get 4 sponsor patches, personal sponsors, because we're increasing those for the players for this year. And I'm going to get commercial sponsorship out of that. So step back, take a look at the bigger picture. We're finally creating a structure for the players, and anyone that can see that, and the players will see this and think, well, finally, I've got a chance.
So I know just based off of looking on the website where you can find the top 32 ranked players, if I'm understanding it correctly, this initial list was based off a committee. With that premise, after a full year playing pool, that'll essentially work itself out to where in 23 it'll be based off of a full calendar, completely based off of merit only, right? So all of these BS comments that I hear all over social media, about favoritism and how do we get in and all these complaining. Listen, now you got a schedule. Now, if you go and play, you're going to go and move up, if I'm understanding it right, Emily. Is that fair? Well,
kind of, but I'll happily explain it again for the 47th time today. It is, to be fair, it is confusing, and we've had to do a lot to make it as fair as possible. So what we've done is we've set an initial 32 list, which actually is 40 players because we've included 8 of top-ups, basically, because, there's still travel restrictions in place. So if a player qualifies for one of the Matchroom events and turns that down, we go to the next player on the ranking list. So that makes sense. And so we may not, we may get past 32. So that's why we've topped it up to 40. So that initial list is now in place. And that top 32 is now going to be used for all of the events up until this year's Moscone Cup. So that list will stay as it is. That's how it is. Now, there is a rankings committee that involves Matchroom personnel WPA, as well as potential other promoters who will make up that. So it's not just all Matchroom, because we need the assistance on it. Who will monitor this 32 list, and it may change based on player performance this year. For example, if someone who isn't shown on this list, or say Tyler Steyer, who's ranked number 39, say he all of a sudden comes and wins the World Pool Championship this year, we look at that and we say, okay, should he be ranked slightly higher? And we evaluate that. That is what the committee will discuss. Those members will discuss that and change it based on an agreement that comes into place. Now, the initial top 32 was discussed with the committee, but also shared with more than a dozen different industry personnel for their opinions. And we collated all of the different opinions that came into place, and we listened to what everyone had to say. We looked at Fargo rating. We looked at the current world WPA world ranking with all of the disciplines in there. We looked at performance pre-COVID. We looked at who was still playing during the pandemic and who's currently on tour. But we also had to look at only 9 ball. So it's, there's certain factors that came into play, because we cannot, the whole reason we launched this ranking event, this 9 ball world ranking, is because the current rankings being used show different disciplines on it and sanctioned by the WPA. And we have the full support of the WPA of the official 9 ball rankings. So when you head to the WPA website, you'll see, their world ranking with the different disciplines combined,
right.
But you will see the 9 ball world rankings, and that will take you to us and our website. So that initial 32 will remain in place unless something happens on the performance for these events coming up. Now, alongside that initial 32 will be an active current rankings based on prize money won. And the first that you'll start to see that develop is the Derby event. You'll see that when that completes, prize money will be allocated and the rankings will start to form. Now, throughout the year, so World Pool Championship, the UK Open, the US Open, the International, the Euro Tours, they will all contribute to these live current rankings. Now, they don't come into effect until December for the Moscone Cup this year. So we've changed the certain cutoffs, which all of this is, there's a big info pack on our website, and you can download this PDF, and it says all of our events, and it says dates, venue, how can I qualify, how is this seeded, prize money, ranking status. It details
transparency.
All of it. Exactly. So for the Moscone Cup, we're doing cutoffs based on after the US Open and after the European Open. Now, logistically, having one player off of the rankings from the European Open is really tough for us, but we're trying to respect the current rankings coming into place, because obviously if we set all of 2022 off of this initial 32 list, all of us would already know how the Moscone is, and that's not fair. So that's why we've done it up until the Moscone, so we can start on a plus and we can start the qualification for the Moscone Cup. So what you'll see is 2 lists, basically, your current 32 that will be used up until the Moscone Cup, and the live actuals, which you'll start to see to develop. And you'll start looking, and you might see like a Tyler Steyer up there and think, right, he's actually might be in for the Moscone Cup this year. Does that kind of make sense? Have I explained it?
Yeah.
Kind of.
No, it makes sense. Yeah, there's so Emily, not to put you on the spot or anything, but we have a question in the chat about who's on the committee and the credentials for that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's within Matchroom, myself and Nick Till. Nick's our tournament director. He knows these events, the seeding. He obviously works on the tournament structures for our pool events. And so it works for him to be on it, but we still have it as an open discussion within the Matchroom office, because we all work so closely and we all have such a passion for the event. And one person may bring a different comment that maybe we haven't even thought about. We've got Aishan from the WPA, who has been recommended, and also with the input from Ian Anderson as well. And we're also reached out to a particular member who I won't name names yet, but I'm sure he'll be privileged to come on board. And another promoter that's within this committee. So we've tried to do it. We've tried to bring in people who everyone will have a biased look on it. You can't bring in someone like, as much as I respect their knowledge within the sport, but you couldn't bring in an Alex Laley or a Jeremy Jones or a Carl Boyes, because they're too heavily involved in the Moscone Cup. And it would, as much as they think they'd be unbiased, they'll be thinking, oh, right, okay, yeah, well, if Fedor gets pushed up a little bit, that might help, for instance. So we've tried to look at people who would have an unbiased look in it, but is knowledgeable within the sport, which is something that potentially we lack sometimes, and we know we do. We want people's help, and it's not, a how do you apply sort of thing. It's set, and this committee will no longer even be needed after this year. Bingo. Because it's all going to be on order of merit. But we had to start somewhere.
Yeah, I guess the challenge is you needed enough voices to kind of balance out any anomalies, but at the same time, not too many voices, because then you can't get anything done. So
exactly, we were very we were skeptical about reaching out to too many different people with our initial top 32, because we were concerned about opening the door to too many comments. But the way we saw it is that, well, actually, I think we need as much information as we can get. Whether we agree or disagree, we need to listen, and we listened to everything, and we applied what we thought was fair.
Some people are asking in the chat about different events, and I'm looking at some of the comments, and some of them I kind of rule out immediately. They're talking about the CSI events here. They're 10 balls, so obviously they wouldn't qualify. But we just had Jason Shaw win his 7th Turning Stone, and somebody was asking about that. And I'm wondering, is the framework in place for an event like that, or is there something within the rules at Turning Stone that would disqualify it at this point?
Well, we did reach out to Predator and CSI about joining, and unfortunately they didn't. They're set for 10 ball, which is fine. They can continue with their 10 ball events and their series. But I think, this is going to develop quite big, and it's probably going to be something that a lot of promoters and organisers will see, that there is no negative and no downfall to being part of the rankings, and that it's only going to, help everyone involved and benefit other organisers. So, like I said, that's fine. If they want to come on board at a later date, that's also fine. So the switch to 9 ball is obviously imperative. Something like Turning Stone, we've reached out to Turning Stone before. I have personally to Mike, and he's never been interested to be part to have any what's the word I'm looking for? Partnership with Matchroom. So I've reached out in the past and never had that interest. So I'm not going to name names, though I am really calling out people. But I wrote to a lot of people, and I had Zoom calls with a lot of organisers saying, this is what we're doing. Do you want to be a part of it? Because I didn't want to announce just 8 Matchroom events. This doesn't work without other organisers.
Well, Emily, we have a $20 entry fee Tuesday night tournament here in Phoenix.
Come on.
This is what I love about it, though, is the fact that getting other people within the industry working together. And if you go and have it be a sanctioned event, you're gonna have players from all over the world go and attend, meaning that fans are gonna go and tune in and show up to go and watch.
Exactly. If I'm a player, and this is probably why I don't play in sports, but if I'm a player, I want to be the best. I want to be the world number one. And it's kind of like what happened with the World Darts Championship. They lost Michael van Gerwen due to a positive COVID test. And they lost a few more as well. And one of the other players came out and said, well, this is kind of, demotivated me slightly, because when I win an event like this, I want to compete against the best. So bringing everyone together and making them ranking events, you're bringing in the best in the world, and you're also encouraging any of the junior players to come through. You're giving them heroes to admire and them to come and play against. So these ranking events they're just going to make everything more competitive. And soon enough, everyone will be playing 4-inch pockets, and we leave it at that. And
is that going to be the Matchroom standard going forward? Is 4-inch like on y'all's tournaments?
I think that it's one thing I've noticed is that it is quite difficult to maintain the same measurement across different table manufacturers. So sometimes someone like Chad Charlo, who is so knowledgeable when it comes to, the tables. And when I spoke to him initially prior to last year's US Open, I said to him, I want it to be tougher conditions. The Whirlpool Masters we experienced, it was tougher conditions, and I want the US Open to be tougher, but I don't want to be too tough and we step the mark too much. But when you've got the Whirlpool Masters, you've potentially got the top 24 players in the world. Yes, right. It should be the hardest conditions. When you've got something like the US Open, where you're broadening more players coming in earlier on, they're two different events. I'm not saying that there should be different regulations, but starting off with, we should ease people in, and this will soon develop. So the Whirlpool Masters, I'll be looking at 4-inch pockets. But I liked what happened at the US Open this year. It was tougher, it was more competitive. And that's why we've set these regulations of between 4 and 4.5. Because, for other promoters, we're always going to look between 4 and 4.25, because we're trying to push to 4. And we want to get to a point where it's just the same throughout, like snooker is. But this hasn't happened in pool before. It hasn't been like this. And it's not, like I said, it's not going to be overnight. And we can't just all of a sudden go, all of the events in 2022 is 4-inch pockets. I don't think that that's a sensible option. I don't think that's a sensible thing to do. Let's ease them in. And the aim is to have consistency in a couple of years' time.
Yeah, I was thinking of some analogies here from other sports, and I was thinking about like golf, as an example. And, certain events, they let the rough grow longer because it's supposed to be more of a challenge. And the other thing I was thinking about golf earlier, when we kind of showed the schedule and you were talking about all the different events, wouldn't it be cool if one day, 5-10 years from now, there was like all these professional events and a circuit, like with golf, with the PGA, they start in Hawaii because the weather's nice, and then they go to Arizona and Florida, and then when the weather gets warmer, they move to the warmer climates, something like that, where you hit the European circuit at a certain time of year, and then you come over to the US and you hit some events here and maybe Canada and Asia. That would be kind of cool. You see something like that in your future, maybe?
You've been dreaming too much, Joey.
I'm an optimist. Let's just say I'm an optimist.
No, I get what you're saying. I think obviously, our launch at the moment, this is, even though we've been on quite a journey the last couple of years and we've gone from 3 events to 8 events, I now see this as we're hitting a new level in Matchroom, and we're starting this new journey moving forward. And we want to finish, we're not just going to start this off and go, right, okay, that's that, and sit back and watch it happen. This is all from passion within to push 9 ball. So of course we're going to build a tour. Of course that is our plan. You know, weather probably not being the priority. I would like to think that when you're looking at the schedule of events, and I'll say for example, if you look at our schedule of events, you've got the Premier League pool in February. And then shortly after, you've got a Euro Tour. So let's say the international players who wouldn't necessarily have gone to that Euro Tour in February the 26th, they're now going to look at Premier League pool and go, okay, so I'm in Premier League pool and I'm going to be in the UK. So yeah, it's a lot easier for me to go to Europe and to go participate in that Euro Tour. So what we should be doing and what we will be doing is, now we've got this 2022 calendar, which I hope will actually grow, because following this announcement, I want to be inundated with requests to be a ranking event. We're going to start looking at our 2023 schedule, and we want to slot it in so, you know, you can come over and travel and you've got 4 events to play in the UK, and then you go to the US and you've got a couple of events there. So it's, you know, so it's not they're there, and they're coming back to here. We want to make it easier. So but I mean, our calendar is driven by our host broadcasters. So it's very tricky to, you know, have a calendar. But oh my gosh, could you imagine? I'm not going to say 10 years time. I'm saying 5 years time. Imagine 5 years time having a full tour of events. It's just,
love it.
It's a career earner for these players.
Yeah.
And they are the forefront of this sport. And all of a sudden, 9-ball is on TV. Everyone understands 9-ball. You look at golf, everyone understands it. You look at darts, which, yeah, it's the same darts ball that gets used, but everyone understands the rules. You look at snooker, it is the same snooker table, it is the same pocket sizes. But I like your analogy to golf, because there are different pars and there are different, you know, golf courses for different events. But these are full tours, and they're, you know, the same board, the same table, for instance. And it would just be, I mean, obviously that's the dream, that we have this tour for the players. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We need everyone to come together. And we finally hit the first step. In order for this to work, we needed the industry to come together. And hats off to the people who have come to support us. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And it just shows, it is a great start, because a lot of people could have just said, no, we're going to sit back. We're going to see what happens this year. We're going to watch you fall on your face. But they've just put their trust in us and gone, yeah, okay, we understand the benefit, and we're willing to be flexible on our side, and we're going to look at this. So the first hurdle was getting a community that has been so disjointed and doing their own thing, listening to themselves, too many egos involved, finally all talking to one another and coming forward together for the sport and for the players. That's the first hurdle, and we've accomplished that. Now we need to obviously set these events up, and, you know, get the spectators filled out, get the fields full, and start doing our work.
Yeah.
My guess is she's going to be blown up with promoters wanting to go and be a part of that ranking system.
That'll be great.
Yeah.
Guys, we're talking to Emily Frazer from Matchroom, and we're talking about the press release that went out today. Tons of information on matchroompool.com. Go check it out. Mike and I were reading it for like an hour before we started this segment, and I think we understand about 10% of it. But I mean, it's just a ton of plans for this coming year, a ranking system. It's really cool. So about that ranking system, Emily, I have a question for you. So, you know, let's say you have a bunch of American players that are like good players, not great players. They go to every Euro Tour, they go to every event, and their rankings, you know, they go up the charts, right? And so you got like me, Molina, Mike, and some other jobber as the top 3 qualifiers, and then Shane Mamoni and Sky Woodward. I mean, is that going to happen? What would you say if that happened? Seriously, what would you say if that happens?
The rules, it's on the website. I can't change it. I'll get absolutely slaughtered.
Wow.
I
So
love the response.
what about like the biggest jerk in the world qualifies? Good to go?
It's the rules. If they've
All right.
earned their spot through order of merit, that's how they get on the team. Yes, for the Mosconi Cup, there's 2 wild cards. Because the Mosconi Cup is a different beast, and there is also still wild cards for the World Pool Masters and the World Cup of Pool. But there is a clear structure. It doesn't matter who qualifies. Yes, they have to be in good standing with their federation and with the WPA. We're not the governing body, we're a promoter. So they have to be in good standing. That would be obviously something that I can think of that would jeopardize them qualifying. So they have to be in good standing with the federation. But just because, I don't know,
There's a few players that have kind of fallen out of favor over the years with the US side, and let's say, and this is their chance now to get back in. They can earn it on points.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be falling out with people as long as you're in good standing with the federation and you're and you're doing it all right, sort of thing, and you're in good standing with the WPA, you're not a banned player, then that's it. It's the rules. It's on the page, and this is what I've wanted. This is what we've all wanted. Yeah. But we weren't sure how to do it. We didn't know how to do it because the rankings for the Mosconi Cup was set up for the European team, as we all know, and that was already in place. I remember when I joined. It was called special events at the time and the pool events. But even then, the events that were being included, the prize money payouts weren't good enough and it wasn't good and things like that. The prize money payouts, we look at that and we look at the how do where do the players have to stay? Is the playing conditions good enough for the players? They're not playing in a pub, for instance. So all of that factors into place, and we're going to make sure that, that's part of the regulation. So we're going to, these events have to be approved by Matchroom and the WPA, just like the players. The players have to be in good standing with their federation. So if you qualify, you're in, baby. Like that's what happens. I've wanted this. I've wanted it, but we didn't know how to do it. We tried to do it, and it didn't before COVID, and it didn't really work. But now we've actually found a way that works. So we have to embrace it, embrace that there's an 32, and that there's going to be, rankings, earn off of prize money, and it's all going to be, everything will be order of merit. So if you're playing the circuit and you're playing well, and you're beating everyone's ass, you're getting into the biggest events in the sport.
That's excellent.
Well, I got a question that's, you've touched base on it here or there on a off the rail. You brought it up in your Billiards Buzz thing that you wrote on there online, which was fantastic. And you mentioned it here early on, the Reyes Cup. How realistic is it in the future? I'm assuming it's going to be Asia against a potential European team or American team. Give us some more details, Emily. We're dying to know.
I'd love for this kind of event to happen because you look at the Mosconi Cup and you look at how fantastic of an event it is. And imagine if the winner of the Mosconi Cup then plays Team Asia. I mean, it just, you can't even think about it. It'd just be phenomenal. So we've set up proposals. We've sent them to host broadcasters in hope that, we can stage one of these events. But let's not forget, we've just set up 8 Matchroom events. The production that we put into these events are a considerable amount. And again, we're a business at the end of the day. We're a promoter, and we need to do our calculations, and we need to make sure that it works for us as well. So it's on our radar. It's something that we want to do. And we've sent the proposals out, and it's just a matter of time as to if anyone's interested. Again,
I hope so.
The more 9-ball events on the calendar, the more 9-ball recognized in the world, there's going to be more of an appetite for these events. Oh, 9-ball. Oh, yeah, you've got a ranking system for that. It all just couples into one. It's all part of this big plan that Oh, I love it. I love it.
Well, Emily, I just put up a comment a little bit ago where someone said, "Thanks so much for coming on so soon after the announcement and kind of explaining it to everybody." We really do appreciate you coming on. We've been on for an hour now, and we want to be respectful of your time. But thank you so much for coming on, Michael. Mike, do you have any? I called you Michael.
I don't know. I was that formal.
Michael, do you have any final thoughts?
No, yeah, just to echo what Joey said, I think it's a new day in pool. I hope people are open-minded. The part that I love about it is that everything that people have been saying for the last few years, you guys have been hearing them and, taking into account as far as transparency and making it more fair and based off of merit. So I hope there's less complaining, but we'll see. But in the meantime, yeah, thank you so much for coming on. We're gonna get her on again because we still got a ton of Moscone questions to go and grill you on. So I'm not gonna let you off the hook. We're gonna be following up, and I'll get this guy Red over here to
That's
go and
old
make some more
news. That's
time.
old news. The Moscone's over, Mike.
I still get sleepless nights over that bloody time foul from Jeremy.
Oh man, that
is Jeremy gonna be a captain in 22? I need an answer.
I don't know.
Oh man. Okay, let's end it there, Joey. Let's pull the plug.
All right. Emily, thanks so much.
You're
Take care,
welcome,
everyone.
guys. I appreciate it.